If you are establishing the crop well, you will get enough of a good yield in the very first year itself. Crop I say because forages in general are the hardest to establish. That's why you have to, depending on your interest, what you are growing it for, you have to choose the right crop. Particularly when if you are going to graze it, so don't only select alfalfa because you would have bloat problem. But if you were to not worry about bloat, then you probably can choose Sisal milkweed or sandfoin. These two are bloat free, so you can choose that.
Build that soil up, build up the nutrients in that soil and build up the fiber. So you should have an absolutely fully comprehensive soil analysis. I would say from the 0 to 6 inches and 6 inches deeper.
The tighter, the better, as much as we possibly can to keep that seed on the top layer is extremely important in our soil. It takes quite a bit of packing, and I think it's worked. With the stand that we had established, it worked well. We gave it a light tillage and packed it, dragged my old double disc seed drill out with the packer wheels on it and used that and ran over it twice and got it tight enough that when we used the Brillion to seed the grass seeds down, it worked very well. After that, I ran over it again. I had a set of crowfoot packers that I ran over it again for the last time, just to give it a little extra packing, and it worked really well.
So you better know what's in there before you start. Not just in there with the nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, whatever, some nutrients. We need these. We need calcium. We need phosphorus to get a good establishment, especially when we look at legumes. We also need to know what our pH is. If you aren't knowing this up front, you're going to have some failures and you'll wonder, hey, what went wrong? And you spent all this money and it's going to basically confirm what you always said. It's too costly to grow these perennials.
But on what was done to the land before, leading up to the time when you're planning on seeding it, I want that surface to leave an imprint of my heel of about 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch. A lot of times, some years, depending on the situation and how much moisture you have, the soil will be too soft, and most times it's never too hard. It's usually too soft. And if you have a lot of rocks and things like that on your land, then that's a good time to roll. And many times we've rolled the land first, rolled the whole field, every inch of it, and then commenced to seeding the legume grass mixture.
But saying that, it has to be able to control that depth. We don't want that machine to have the capabilities of going too deep, because deep is our biggest problem with small seeds. Well, where we determine that being too deep is because, again, a small seed, most cases, and most of these perennial style of grasses or legumes or any item that is seed in itself in nature will just drop on the surface. So we're looking at just putting a product under the surface, and even if we see some just on the surface, is more suitable than making sure everyone's covered and it's too deep.
The method of seeding is, it may be managed differently because of the machine that you're using, but I wouldn't say that any machine is better than any other machine, because that isn't what we've seen in all of these years.
What I suggest is people determine get their information on that particular seed, how many seeds per pound they got in that, and then look at the mix they want. And within those mix, they're going to want so much, you're going to want to aim for so many seeds per square foot. Do your calculations on the actual seed count.
Normally we try to seed as soon as we can, especially with the cooler season grasses. The quicker we can get it in the ground, the better.
It also allows us, if we get it in quicker, then it allows us to to graze off the weeds and still have a really long establishment period. So if we've set back some of the plants by grazing it, it gives us an opportunity for those to recover.
And keep very good control of the weed situation, because in a year of establishment, we've had complete failures in the past from not being very effective with our weed management in wet years, and like the year we had last year. If we had a dirty crop coming off, there's no way I'll be going back into grass this year. It'll have to be a nice clean field with good nutrients, good soil tilth and structure, and then I'll consider going back to a legume grass mixture.
Because we'd had so much moisture, the regrowth was absolutely tremendous. The weeds, the pigweed and the mustard were just atrocious, and we were really scared that because of the regrowth was coming back so quickly that it was going to choke out the underseeding. So then we thought, well, the quickest way to deal with it was to cut it and bale it and wrap it.
I'm a little concerned when with certain crops are getting ahead and starting to canopy over, then they start to shade out your crop you're trying to establish. We stayed up around 6 inches to mow. That knocked off all the weeds, but also, and it reduced the canopy, but didn't really push back the establishing plants.
If we have a high stock density, move them through rapidly, they just clean off all the weeds at a young, at the initial establishment.
This year, the amount of seed that's been produced, and we're quite excited to see the potential for it to reseed itself. We feel that it'll pay off in the end.
Actually, it surprised me when we went through it that we actually found mature sainfoin seed on the same plant as we found purple flowers. What surprised me was the plant was actually flowering and had set mature seed at the same time.